My name is Aaron and I've been married to my husband, Jonathan, for 10 years. Our relationship started out strong, full of love and respect. But over the years, I've made mistakes that have deeply hurt him. Mistakes I never realized could cost me everything. One of my worst habits has been teasing Jonathan about things he's sensitive about, like his height, stamina, and even his body. At first, I kept these jokes between us, thinking they were harmless, even playful. But as time went on, I began making these comments in front of my friends when they visited. I reveled in the laughter and attention, completely ignoring how Jonathan might feel if he knew. Things took a darker turn a few nights ago. I was out at a pub with my girlfriends, enjoying drinks and laughter, when I made an offhand remark about Jonathan's inability to keep up with me. I joked that maybe I should find someone on the side. My friends laughed, and one of them, Lisa, who is married herself, told me about a guy named Stefan, someone she had been with and highly recommended. Caught up in the moment, a handsome man approached our table, and I flirted with him briefly. While it didn't go any further than that, it was a foolish and reckless move. Eventually, I left the pub and went home, passing out drunk and unaware of the storm that was brewing. The next morning, I woke to an unsettling silence. Jonathan wasn't home. I texted and called him, but there was no response. Panic set in as I tried to piece together what might have happened. When I finally reached his best friend, Michael, he coldly informed me that Jonathan had left and didn't plan on coming back. He also made a cutting remark about me going to Stefan instead, leaving me stunned and confused. I have no idea how Michael or Jonathan found out about what I said at the pub, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that I've deeply hurt the person I love most. I never intended to be unfaithful, and the thought of losing Jonathan is unbearable. I've been trying to contact him, sending heartfelt messages and emails, pleading for a chance to explain. I've told him how much I love him, how much he means to me, and how I never wanted to hurt him. After days of silence, I finally heard back from him. But the words he sent shattered me. He wants a divorce. In his message, Jonathan laid bare the pain I'd caused him. He reminded me that he had asked me repeatedly to stop making jokes at his expense. He explained how my constant mockery, especially about such personal things, had worn him down over the years. He told me how humiliated he felt knowing I had ridiculed him in front of others, people whose opinions he values. He said he no longer felt respected, loved, or important in our relationship. Now I'm at a complete loss. I realize how wrong I've been, how blind I was to the damage I caused. I took Jonathan's kindness and patience for granted, never considering how my words and actions might affect him. I don't know how to undo the damage or convince him to give me another chance. I know I can't erase the pain I've caused, but I desperately want to find a way to make things right. What can I do to rebuild the trust I've shattered and save our marriage? How can I show Jonathan that I am ready to change and that I truly value him? Please help me. I am in the midst of a situation that feels insurmountable, and I'm desperate for guidance. It all began with a foolish mistake, a lapse in judgment I deeply regret. I joked about being unfaithful with Stefan, and though I never intended for it to be taken seriously, my husband, Jonathan, no longer trusts me. He refuses to see me, speak to me, or even hear me out. I tried to explain that it was all in jest, that there was never any real connection with Stefan, but I struggled to articulate why I involved him at all. It was thoughtless, and in hindsight, I see how hurtful my actions were. I never meant to cause Jonathan pain, yet I have. Desperate to untangle my emotions, I managed to see a therapist on short notice. When I recounted the situation, she looked at me with a calm detachment and told me something I didn't want to hear. I needed to face my feelings and accept that I couldn't force Jonathan to return. He'll do what's best for him, she said. Her words pierced me. She asked why I treated him the way I did, why I mocked him in front of our friends. I had no good answer. I didn't mean to belittle him, but I couldn't explain my behavior. She even asked if I subconsciously despised or looked down on him, which left me shaken. It felt as though something deep inside me had been triggered, something I still can't identify. To everyone who has given me advice, I want to say that I now see the full extent of my mistakes. I never thought Jonathan would take my actions so seriously, but now I realize I crossed a line I shouldn't have. At the time, I thought I was simply joking, but I've come to understand there's a fine line between humor and hurt. Days have passed since the incident, and Jonathan remains silent. I've sent countless messages, emails, and made call after call, but he hasn't responded. His silence feels like a heavy weight, only fueling my frustration and desperation. I know I hurt him, but I can't understand why he won't even tell me what he's feeling or thinking. Last night, overwhelmed by my emotions and loneliness, I made another grave mistake. In a moment of weakness, I reached out to Stefan again, not for anything romantic but simply seeking comfort and understanding. We met to talk, but I now see how wrong this was. Instead of finding solace, I validated Jonathan's doubts and likely caused him even more pain. I'm deeply ashamed of myself. I've only compounded the damage and tarnished any hope of reconciliation. I'm not just upset with Jonathan for refusing to communicate, I'm angry at myself for behaving so recklessly. I feel trapped in a cycle of guilt, regret, and uncertainty. I don't know how to repair the damage I've caused or whether our marriage can even be salvaged. It feels like I'm lost in a dark tunnel, unable to see the light at the end. Someone recently told me, "Is this how you treat someone you're supposed to love? You've been belittling him for years, and now that he's finally had enough, you've brought another man into your shared life. Don't you see that the problem lies with you?" Those words cut deeply because they're true. I have to confront the reality of my behavior and its consequences, but I don't know where to start. If anyone has advice, insight, or support, I would be deeply grateful. I want to make things right, but I don't know how to move forward. The weight of regret presses down on me, heavier with each passing day. I find myself endlessly replaying the moments that led us here, hoping in vain to rewrite history. Perhaps if I had acted differently, Jonathan and I wouldn't be in this place of silence and separation. 3 weeks have passed since he left, taking with him the warmth and stability of our life together. The divorce papers arrived today, a stark confirmation of the end of something I once thought was unbreakable. Since the day he walked out, our communication has been reduced to occasional, impersonal text messages. When his lawyer contacted me, asking if I had secured legal representation, I replied that I would. Desperate, I asked if Jonathan might call me. The lawyer's response was polite yet distant. He promised to pass the message along but assured me there'd be no pressure for Jonathan to respond. The isolation is suffocating. It seems everyone knows what happened, and the judgment has been swift and merciless. Friends who once laughed at my jokes have pulled away, their smiles replaced by cold indifference. Their partners, now wary, have issued ultimatums, fearing the cracks in my marriage might spread to theirs. Even Lisa, who mentioned Stefan, is facing her own unraveling. Her husband discovered everything, likely because Jonathan told him. She too is staring down the barrel of divorce. The court hearing looms, but Jonathan won't be there. His lawyer will handle everything in his absence. Feels so impersonal, so final. Despite my countless attempts to mend what I've broken, every effort only seems to widen the chasm between us. I see it now, the wall I built brick by brick with my actions, a barrier so tall I can't imagine tearing it down. I miss him more than words can convey, and the prospect of a future without him fills me with a terror I can't shake. My therapist has been a guiding light, helping me sift through the chaos of my emotions and understand the reasons behind my behavior. But even with this newfound clarity, the pain of losing him is overwhelming. I know I need to change to become a better version of myself. But deep down, I fear that no amount of growth or introspection can reclaim what's already been lost. Jonathan, it seems, has moved on completely. I've stopped reaching out to his family and friends. Their silence speaks volumes. When I called his former workplace, they informed me he no longer worked there but offered no clues as to where he might be. In a company as vast as his, he could be anywhere, a ghost in my life. Therapy has given me the strength to remain single and avoid Stefan entirely. My solitude is deliberate, a necessary step to focus on myself. But the loneliness is profound, and though my crying spells have lessened, a lingering sadness follows me like a shadow. I've tried making new connections, but they pale in comparison to the bonds I've lost. I thought I had begun to heal. I truly did. But then, today, everything unraveled. As I drove past Jonathan's parents' house, I saw him. He stepped outside with a woman I didn't recognize. She was strikingly beautiful, tall, elegant, and radiating the kind of joy I used to see in his eyes when he looked at me. She smiled at him, and my heart shattered into pieces I didn't know were still fragile. I pulled over, tears streaming uncontrollably as cars sped by, indifferent to my breakdown. It's been over a year since I last saw him, and in an instant, I realized how little I've moved on. He, however, has built a new life, one that doesn't include me. If you've followed my journey, I hope you'll take something from my story. Cherish what you have, nurture the relationships that matter, and always strive to be the best version of yourself. Healing is a long and winding road, but it's one worth walking. Take care of yourself and live your best life.